seriously thinking about what this ship should be, I had the idea of, I began thinking about the process of how these ships are actually built. And they're really handcrafted constructions. Yes, there's computers that cut steel and bend steel and computer-aided design, drawings and so forth that are all part of the picture. But in the end, when you get shipwrights and the carpenters and the stone cutters and the fitters and so forth, it really is artisan work. And that idea sort of bounced around in my mind, and I thought, gee, why don't we do the central idea of this ship around artisan work? So when I start a ship, I always start in the common areas, which would be the lobby, the stairs, the aft atrium, and the promenade, all of which work off the same common idea. In this case, I thought a garden atmosphere would be very nice on a ship. And I thought of the various artisan works that would go into a garden: ironwork, terracotta work, and stonework. You have the vertical columns sitting on stone beams covered in what looks like terracotta tile, and all of this stone is actually artificial stone that is made out of fiberglass gypsum product, but it's chiseled to look like real stone. We have the ironwork going in between on the railings. And then I designed this chandelier that is made with candelabras on top of an iron frame, which can be at one time any particular color, or it can be a mix of colors. So it's a fantastic light show, all on a floral pattern of polished stainless steel, which is like a mirror, so that you have the floral effect, but you also have the infinite depth of mirror. Venetian Palace, this is our main theater, and the artisan work here is Murano glass. And the Murano glass is represented in several places. The big chandelier that look like carnival balloons, and there's smaller ones all around the room. But the most interesting part of that are the walls. The walls are all glass tiles. If you go into St. Mark's Cathedral, because it's so old and it's so settled, the walls are not flat and straight. They're bulgy and curved. I wanted to get a similar effect for that, with bulges and, you know, not an even smooth surface. And also of particular interest are the carnival masks. They're all hand-painted, and they're all done by the real artisans who do the best quality masks in Venice. This is the forward restaurant. It's the Golden Olympian, and the aft restaurant is the Silver Olympian. The artisan work here is silver making, and the Olympian comes from a Tiffany flatware pattern called Olympian. You'll see on the walls a giant, let's call it a fork handle, that's been bent to form an architectural element in which is a vitrine. And then all of the details that you see on the ceiling, these sort of flaring out pieces, and the pieces that also flare out and come up the balcony edge, those are all meant to look like the handles of flatware. And then in each vitrine, we have various antique flatware patterns. It's a really interesting collection, sort of a little museum of silverware. This is Glove's Sports Bar, and here the artisan work is leather making. Of course, I chose leather making because so many sports have gloves that are made out of leather, and they're represented here in many different ways. There are reproductions of all sorts of gloves in the ceiling, and the sofas are sort of a giant catcher's mitt. And then we have all these boxing gloves hanging over the bar itself. And there's also, by the way, vitrines that have very interesting antique gloves that have been worn by really famous people. Even the walls are done in leather. Czar's Palace is the casino, and the artisan work here is trompe-l'oeil. And the paintings that you see throughout the room are vistas taken from the Hermitage in Russia. So you'll also see that there are golden Russian double eagle medallions, as well as visages of Nicholas and Alexandra. This is the cafe, the Jardin Cafe, that's along the promenade, and here the artisan work is bead making. It's just a basic sign that I created to really show the craft of beadwork. And if you look really closely, you can see the hundreds of thousands of beads that make it up. This is the Hot and Cool Dance Club, and here the artisan work is tattoo. And so we have giant arms and legs that are holding up the ceiling or sticking up, and they all have authentic-looking tattoos, and they're all lit by ultraviolet light. There's actually lights in the hands that light the tattoos on the ceiling, and lights in the ceiling that lights the tattoos on the arms and legs. The backs of the sofas just look like fingers out of polished aluminum. It gives quite an interesting effect. The stage, this is the jazz club, and here the artisan work is wood carving. And I wanted the whole room to look like it was carved out of wood. So all the walls look like curtains, but carved out of wood. And then we made statues of various jazz musicians to look like they are cut out of wood. Piano Man, the craft here is ivory work. So the ceiling looks like it's made out of ivory panels. The walls are made out of these tiles that are made to look like ivory. The bar stools are actually like elephant tusks. And the light is that wavy-looking keyboard you see going around the room. And we even, when we found this great chair, we upholstered it to look like a piano key. Here, the Victoria Lounge. Here the craft was Majolica. And the Victorian era was a very strong period of Majolica work. So we have vitrines with the Majolica pieces, vases, and so forth in them. But I wanted to get a real looking Victorian